Awesome. Thanks for coming, and thank you for hosting us, Nadim. Pleasure. Spencer, you and I met back 1.5 years ago, probably. 1 year ago?
I think we met
at a congress somewhere, right?
And then we recently met at FUE Madrid.
Yeah, we did.
Where I was fortunate enough to have a demonstration given to me by yourself on force, and found it fascinating. And what was interesting is the number of people that were also intrigued by what the software can enable patients, but also doctors, to have that conversation, and in terms of, you know, what is expectations and what could be achieved visually, which I found fascinating because I hadn't seen anything like it before, and really looking forward today to having it demonstrated again. David's with us today to give his expert opinion as well on.
And I've never seen your software before, and we've never met, so this is a complete reaction to seeing the software. So I'm really excited to see, well, particularly the images of me later on as well.
Excellent. So let's dig into it. But before we do, I'm going to keep you hanging there for a little bit. I'm going to tell you about our company and where it derives from, right? So like you guys, I am a patient, right? Former patient. Started losing hair about 20 years ago when I was in my early 20s. I'm 43 today. At around 30, I went for consultation when I realized hair restoration might be something that could solve my problem. And my experience was terrible. Okay, I won't name the clinic or the clinics. I went to several, and the experience was really poor. So one clinic pulled out a white piece of paper, kind of drew my scalp onto there, and started drawing something that was supposed to be an insertion,
interpretation.
Yeah, it was like a treatment plan, right? So, okay, we're going to implant here, and this is what we're going to do. And now, in retrospect, the medical advice was also terrible. But anyway, so this was kind of the means of visual communication at the time.
And that was an in-person consultation?
That was an in-person consultation.
Okay, wow.
And I had even worse experiences. So it just struck me that, hey, I mean, why don't someone basically build a software that can help clinics communicate with patients and help patients communicate with clinics? Because we're all sitting here verbally talking about something which is visual, which is hair. I mean, shouldn't that be visual somehow in the conversation? And it took me a number of years before I actually set out to build a company. Today, we are a team of 10 out of Sweden. I'm one of the founders, CEO of the company. And we are now basically scaling our business and welcoming clinics all over the world using our software.
How many countries are using your software currently?
25 plus countries
25,
currently.
Okay. Wow.
Because since we participate in congresses, we meet people and clinics from all over the world.
And that's how you met Spencer? That's
how we met Spencer, and that's how a lot of our users, how we met a lot of our users. Currently, we do more, let's say, a more focused approach in certain regions as part of our journey of building the business.
Okay.
What we do for the hair restoration industry has been done before in other segments of the aesthetic medicine field, basically, right? So it is a proven technology that by visualizing patients in 3D, you increase the shared decision-making with the patient, right? So look at rhino, look at breast augmentation, for example. These solutions are becoming standard, more or less. But in hair, it hasn't been done. And this is kind of what we bring to the industry. So it's already proven that if used right, this elevates the experience and the patient satisfaction and the efficiency of the clinic, basically. Because clinics and patients, they align earlier, can make good common decisions. The Force HT product is a surgeon-led or physician-led product, right? So it is not something that the patient can play around with. It is managed and operated by a professional, and it can be operated like this at a clinic, but also remotely by patient advisors remotely. The software operates based on photos of the patient, which means that The patient can have their spouse take photos at home and share with their clinic.
And these are the common photographs that you would typically use, because obviously you asked me to send my photographs in advance. They are pretty standard angles that you would use for an online consultation that the majority of clinics have on their website.
Exactly. So it ties into most clinics' existing processes that way. That it's the photos that they request already kind of for the assessment, right? So our technology builds a 3D model based on those photos. And that 3D model becomes the basis for planning, simulation, and communication in our software.
And that process of, as I've personally experienced, and David, because we've uploaded and provided you our pictures to simulate for the process today, but it's quite a clunky process. Generally, people sending in photos, so there's like a standard direction, location, angles that then provide, once entered into the software, give you a complete 360 ability to utilize those to your advantage. Yeah.
Exactly. So clinics actually get a website from us. We build the website to the clinic, branded in the clinic's
So each
brand.
clinic gets their own branded,
their own branded website, which has the entire photo upload flow, right? And it's safe. Patient data is managed only by the clinic. We cannot touch it. So it's fully compliant with patient data laws. And the clinic, if they want to do a remote consultation, they share the link to this site with the patient. And the patient uploads their photos. 3 minutes later, the 3D model is ready and processed in the software. And the clinic can then go online with their patient, for example.
Do you find the remote consultations are as accurate as in-house consultations with the software?
Our clients use it in so many different ways.
Okay.
I mean, we basically, our team, we do like equal amount of business advice as product advice, honestly, on how to use this technology.
And how accurate are these models in terms of like, because I guess there's a certain amount that depends on the photographs that are uploaded. So I know you were quite specific about the angles that we needed to upload. So if the angle's not quite right, will that have a big impact on how realistic this will be?
Actually, the software creates hyper-realistic and geometrically accurate models, because you can also calibrate the models depending on where you use certain different parts of your head. So for example, by using the distance between your eyes, you can actually calibrate the model. Okay?
Interesting.
So that gives you a geometrically correct model.
So the photos don't have to be exactly how you have intended them to be. They can be, because obviously there's a massive discrepancy with lighting when patients send photos in. You know, the lighting can be such a game changer in giving an accurate kind of appraisal, can't it? So this eliminates all that as well, because it's essentially using that software can, like you say, calibrate everything to give you a...
I think another question that I have with regards to it. So when patients are uploading their images and you're assessing those images, can you, when you talked about geometry, so are you able to determine whether someone has got, you know, the size of that person in terms of the size of their head versus somebody having quite a small head, someone have a medium-sized head and a larger head?
Correct.
Because that will be able to determine the donor area and also the size, the demand, obviously the supply and demand.
Surface area.
So exactly, because like we've all got different head shapes. So that's often a challenge when you're seeing patients, because having done consultations myself remotely for years, what you don't get an idea is whether you've got a guy who's coming in, he's 5'4" or he's 6'4", and that's going to have quite a big impact on supply and demand.
Indeed. So we can have a look at you, David.
Okay.
So let's have a look at your model. It is calibrated.
I was just saying I look like I've been out walking the dog with a hat on because my hair's been all flattened down.
Exactly.
It's exactly what I look like.
Because the software flattens your hair for exactly that reason, to mimic your scalp shape without the hair.
Yeah, your head shape. Yeah.
Because planning on top of your hair doesn't make sense, right? So if we were to plan to have a look at your donor, I can actually draw. Let's say I can draw a segment like this. Let's say we want to harvest here. The software doesn't tell me this. I remember it's surgeon-led or physician-led. So let's say we want to go harvest in this area. Okay. I'm going to draw here. That.
Okay.
I tell the software that this is a donor. And the software now gives me the surface area. And obviously, this is not medically precise.
No.
It's an approximate.
It's approximate, but it's an approximation that is based on your actual geometrical size of your head, but with your hair flattened. So that means that the software and the user makes an estimation of how much basically you compress your hair to reach your actual head shape.
I see. So the reason for compressing the hair is that then you're not fooled by like somebody who's got a bit of a hair brushed up and you're thinking that they've got a slightly bigger head.
Exactly.
So that's why it's flattened.
Because if you have for example, if you save the hair in your donor, probably it will expand like this, right?
Yeah.
So you're comparing eggs with what the patient's bringing to the table. You can accurately estimate that this is going to be the surface area we can approximately extract from it.
I would say that's a very good way of putting it, that accurately estimating. Mm-hmm. And our clinics report back often that, hey, it's surprisingly correct.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you've emphasized there, and I agree that it's medically led, this component of the process, because it is a crucial part of the process. Yeah. The donor supply, the amount of grafts, the surface area that you've got to transplant from is the foundation for the long-term outcome of the success of a hair transplant.
Exactly.
So it's interesting to know that and why because I thought exactly that when I uploaded my photos. It's exactly why does my head look like it's been put in a duffel bag for a week.
And the software automatically puts it in the duffel bag, but then the user, the physician, can additionally compress or expand it based on estimations once meeting you, for example.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. So you've done this. Brilliant. This is based on, you'd give us a number, but David's not a virgin scalp. David's had multiple hair transplants, nearly as many as me.
Yeah.
So how would that just kind of have to be again approximated, or how does that scalp accurately get assessed for the donor hair that is available?
Yeah. So that assessment is done by the physician, right? So the software doesn't do any assessment.
You're talking surface area, aren't we?
We're talking surface area and math.
Mm-hmm. You can't assess. You can't take into account previous scarring from FUE or FUT scars. That's impossible, isn't it? Yeah.
Currently, no.
No,
that's on the upgrade.
Is it?
So
that's on the premium package.
What you do as the user, you tell the software.
Got an idea there, Dave.
You tell the software the density that David holds in this area, right? And that can be measured either through trichoscopy, through estimation with a loop, through flipping through your photos.
Other tools.
And making the best assessment based on your photos, which is kind of the standard procedure in online consultation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It will, and that will still be an uncertain parameter, but it's an estimation.
Okay. Yeah, so you're going to put me down. I would say put me down on the lowest number in terms of 60. Because
how low do you want to go?
Well, we could probably go lower than that. If I would probably
45?
say that we've got 45 is probably in that area. Let's go with that.
So we do 45.
And caliber? Are you able to look at the caliber of the hair?
You can look at the caliper. It will not have any medical, or it will not have any impact in the software, except for just defining it for
the cosmetic illusion, isn't it?
No, actually, only for what do you call it? Keeping the record.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Just
for documentation.
Sure. Okay.
So, but what you will also tell the software is what harvest rate you expect to have from this area. And since you already had your donor quite depleted, right? You would probably, if you were to do another, maybe you would extract 10%.
Yeah, that sounds about reasonable, yeah.
So what the software does, it tells us the area, 82 square centimeters. And given what we now told the software, you have an additional 370 grafts.
Right.
In that area.
When can I book?
this afternoon. I think Nadeem at the Harley Street Hair Clinic would be able to fit you in this afternoon.
So that's from sort of half the side. That's obviously from my right hand
The
side.
side of your head. You've got the back as well there.
Yeah, so let's create. I actually
Have you had any FUE procedures?
Yeah, oh, yeah,
You have?
Yeah.
I deliberately split your donor into a couple of different regions. So
You've got a really good thick band there, Dave.
You do, Dave. Maybe we should go for another one. So let's
He
say,
doesn't need it.
what kind of density are we looking at here?
In that
In the
area.
occipital, a little bit higher?
I think you probably the crown actually there's probably a bit higher, I would say, in terms of like where you could extract from if you were looking to do another procedure. Because
I don't think you'd go that high,
yeah,
would you?
I think you'd have to dip my crown down a little bit because I think that is native hair.
Yeah, I'd take a good inch off the top of that
Yeah.
part.
Let's just do this.
Yeah,
Let's
you
create
can kind
another
of-
segment.
Which again is why my donor area is so limited. But
So let's
There's
go.
certainly a sweet spot through there, though. That
yeah, there is.
Do you want to go lower into the...
Yeah, I think you could go lower. I think my nape hair is I know it's very grey, but I definitely think you could harvest from there. And because I
Let's make
heal,
another segment there.
yeah, because I heal with a really subtle scar, then from FUE, it's pretty.
So what if we go here?
yeah, that's exactly where it is.
I
That's
think
saver,
it'd
right?
be interesting to know really, really conservative. What's the most conservative number
go.
Dave can realistically get here? Because that's you're not even in the market for, but it'd be good to know. I'd love to know what's left in
Yeah.
mine.
Would you harvest here?
From where? Sorry.
Would you harvest
Lower.
in this region?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah. Because I think you can see that there's a fair amount of native hair from there.
And
That's good hair.
What is your estimated density?
There's a lot of scarring in that area, so I would probably say 35.
35? Okay.
Yeah,
Can we still extract 10%?
yeah.
Okay, cool. So that gives you 200 additional grafts from
Okay.
that area.
We're up to 500, buddy.
Should we
I
create
think you
one
can go
that's
lower,
even
yeah.
lower?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we do one nice little segment like this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, what about this one? You tell me the parameters.
Probably if you're sort of 40, I would say, in that area. 45, maybe 50. I have got a low scar, so again, that's
Go on the lower side.
yeah,
42,
yeah.
and we extract 10%.
Mm-hmm.
We want to go higher.
I'd probably go slightly higher there, probably as much as 15. Yeah,
Okay, so that's an additional 94 grafts
Mm-hmm.
from that area.
it's fascinating. Fascinating how lifelike.
The ear in particular.
Yeah, it is uncanny. I think my wife could recognise me by that ear.
And we go here.
Yeah.
Is that too far ahead?
No. That's actually pretty strong, the hair towards my temple points.
Let's go all the way down.
You could probably go a little bit higher, actually, there.
Something like that. You tell
Yeah.
me the parameters.
I still think you can go a little bit higher there because I think my
Yeah.
sides are pretty.
Even higher.
I think my sides have probably pretty much established themselves. as where they're
You
gonna
have a
go.
great sweet spot there, Dave.
So let's go high then.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pull them.
So just looking at you, Pa, maneuvering all this, tweaking this, it's like you're making it look so easy.
Yeah.
But I can imagine it is not. So is that just basically experience, time, like anything, like just playing around with it, utilizing it,
Yeah.
understanding which button to tweak and touch, because you've made that whole process very quick.
But it's really, it has a little bit of a learning curve.
Yeah.
But as you can also tell, everything is icon based. We make it super simple because we're in 25 countries. So if we were to make, text tutorials and these things, it wouldn't fly.
I tell you what it reminds me of. It reminds me just about using like Paint, for instance.
Yeah.
Which is a very old program that's been around for,
Yeah.
for
Kind of.
years and expanding the area.
And we deliberately make it, we work really hard actually making it as user-friendly as possible because our users also have very limited time, which I think Nadeem will sign up to, right? You don't have too much time. It has to be fast.
Yeah, of course.
What would be brilliant would be if you, this is fantastic here, and I presume not everybody's got this luxury as we have here at the Harley Street, to be able to have it up on a big screen here, but to actually have a pen that interacts. You literally draw it on. It'll be done in half the time because it's like, that's just input.
Yeah.
And not everyone would have that, but an interactive screen would even make it so much more easier
that would be great,
for the person this side of the desk explaining it to the person this side of the desk.
That's a great idea.
But also having, because you could then have it on like an iPad, for
Yeah.
instance.
Yeah.
So with a pen, and you could just draw the area.
It really erase
I think
it
from a doctor's
quickly.
point of view, that would speed up the whole process because there is a certain amount of using a mouse, being able to, or if you're then using a trackpad, that's even harder to do this kind of thing. So,
But a pen is so precise, isn't it?
So we've got the donor area mapped out pretty well. Because I think when you're looking, I mean, on a pretty standard Norwood 6 pattern, so if that's the kind of, and that's the traditional safe zone, isn't it, really, if you're going to harvest with FUE from. So that's the sort of pattern that you kind of want to have apply for the majority of
What is
patients.
interesting, given the fact that you've been able to relay to part and bespoke it, given your kind of the veteran nature of your kind of donor region, having 10 hair transplants.
Study on 8.
Okay, sorry. I didn't
Don't
mean to offend
exaggerate.
you, buddy.
Dare you? I'm going.
Do you understand the process? That to be able to bespoke it like that is really
well,
important.
of course, and not everyone would obviously know that information. But if you're sat there and
you'd be
with
relying.
in the consultation physically, then obviously the doctor's going to assess and going to be able to.
But it's the
translate that.
bespoke nature that PAR's able to give us, or give you rather, a really an accurate estimate on what donor region or what donor hair is available in this donor region for you.
So
Just spinning it a little bit for editorial purposes later.
sure.
So what is the magic number, PAR, that Dave has potentially at his disposal if he were to improve further on perfection?
Perfection, yeah.
Based on our advanced estimations currently, Dave has an additional 984 grafts to go.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
Well, I think that's very clever to be able to work that out. And you're able to put in also hairs per graft as well as a general rule. So
we didn't dig into that, but we can put in the hairs per graft like this.
So the interesting thing about my hair is that what I tend to find about people who have coarser caliber of hair, I've actually got slightly above average caliber, is I've actually got very good groupings as well.
Okay.
So the most cost-effective way of getting a hair transplant, have coarse hair and good groupings. So ultimately, I would say I've probably got above 2.2.
So what we can do here, so now we're at 2.2. These are kind of quick buttons, so 2.2, 2.6, 2.8. But we can also go granular.
Okay, so you can
That's
really...
good.
Okay.
So it can really be bespoke to...
Indeed.
Is there any limit to that? Is there a boundary, or can it be quite literally you can input into that?
You can input whatever you want.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
So like if I pull up the doubles and triples, we're now at 2.71 average in this specific region.
That's good.
Okay.
Yep.
This is getting way detailed for most cases, but in specific cases.
Yeah.
And if a patient really is into this and knows, or seeking information, you can go deep.
Okay. Excellent.
So the software will also calculate the harvested hairs based on that distribution we just put in.
So you said I've got 984.
84 grafts.
Okay, and how many hairs is that anticipating? Then
That will be 2,880, but this is with 2.2 as the average, except in one of your donor regions where we put 271.
So I guess the big question now is that if we are going to go ahead with this, then where are we going to put those graphs?
Yeah, where do you want them?
Well, if I was to have another hair transplant at this point, I think my hairline is more than adequate in terms of density. I would put them probably in towards the mid scalp and the crown. That was where I'd be putting things.
In a big segment, or where? How would
well,
you?
I think you'd have to strategically, when you're using that small number of grafts, you have to put them strategically. I think if you just spread them around the entire area of the crown, they'd get a little bit lost. Although I've got good caliber, would definitely help, but I would probably put them in the sort of the whirl area, and then that then helps the
coverage,
flow forward and also backwards as well. So I think that if I was putting them in there, can I show you?
Yeah, please.
So I would, for me, it would be around this sort of area
Here?
Yeah.
So more localized than spread out over the.
Yeah, I think so, because I think you
with
could-
that
you could use
nature,
that.
with the nature of that coarser caliber, they're going to provide a great kind of coverage.
I've had 500 grafts put into my crown and some beard hair as well, and actually that can make quite a difference.
Something like this?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, got it. So,
Do you mind if I just have a look at your crown? Yeah,
What do you think? You agree?
I agree with it. I mean, to be honest, it's the same density throughout the top. Obviously, don't know how you're layering it over. You've got a great hair characteristic that's really enabled fewer grafts to go a long way.
And I tell you what's been really helpful for me, going grey, getting that salt and pepper colouring, because when I had very dark hair, it was obviously a lot much younger, you had that contrast. So actually going grey, and I would say to patients, it's like,
It looks great.
don't dye your hair really dark, because that's actually counterintuitive in terms of like creating density.
Yeah.
So for me, losing some colour in terms of like getting grey has been helpful. Okay.
So if we were to implant in this area,
Yep.
I tried out some different densities, and at density 30, that actually corresponds to 982 grafts.
Wow. Okay.
So that would use all of your remaining grafts in this region. Right?
What about if he were to if we were to utilize throughout, so not saying that you need it, I'm working on the number of grafts we've got available, which is that's going to tax out that donor supply. He's got one shot at this. So how about we utilize from the kind of top of the bridge around here, but kind of moving that like to there. So covering a larger surface area, because personally, like I think that with your hair characteristic, you may get more bang for buck in terms of overall coverage, because positioned correctly, that could achieve the same outcome further back anyway.
So the hair flowing forward into the mid-scalp.
And like we know, you always prioritize the front to the back.
Yeah, so something like this.
So and then from a density perspective, given the number of grafts that he's got, combined with what you've already got.
Well, because that would then automatically correct. So now we've extended the size of the area. Does that automatically calculate what density? So what I mean by that is
I see what you mean.
So you put the number in that we've got available. Does then that reduce the density? So you're now saying rather than getting 30 grafts per centimetre square, now we're maybe looking at 20, for instance.
It actually doesn't reverse it, so I have to pull down the density to match the graft count that we have.
Okay.
So I pulled it down, and we end up at about 20. So at 20 grafts per square centimetre.
Okay.
21.
You've already got so many in there.
Oh, no, absolutely. 20 would be great. But in terms of the area that you've just drawn on my scalp, can you actually tell me what surface area that is?
Yeah, so that's 47.58 square centimeters.
Right, okay.
And if I can just comment, that's larger than you would need to. That could actually come. You could shave a little bit off either of those sides. Because remember, we're using that layering effect. We've got to maximize this essentially limited number of precious hair that we've got available. I think
so. We can pull that.
I think that could come in slightly. That's right, and then come in again that side, which would then enable the maths of it to be much more
I
predictable.
really like how you're really caring about my next hair transplant.
I know. I'm into this, buddy.
I like
loving
this,
it.
right?
He's really invested in this, isn't he? I think he's going to have me booked in soon.
Nadim's licking his lips.
Something like that, right? I remember we can at all times pull out your photos here. For the purpose
reference,
for reference, to explain to patients,
So those photographs were taken in quite,
bright.
Very natural lighting. So it does make
It
my
doesn't
crown-
look like that in real life.
No.
So what would that? Yeah, let's see what would that calculate then in terms of that would that he be able to utilize the number of grafts he's got available? And
So
sorry if
he,
you've already said, what density would that give
You
him?
would have around 23 grafts per square centimeter.
Yeah, that's a good density for a crown, for one, but also with existing hair in that area. Okay. So now we've mapped out that area, are we able to simulate exactly what that might look for me?
Answer is no.
Okay.
We're not able to simulate exactly what that would look like.
Okay.
Simulation is conceptual, and it will not bring these parameters and auto predict your simulation.
Okay.
Okay. So in a case with a patient like yours, I would actually stay pretty much here, right? Because I don't think we can give you a representative simulation of adding, because the density would also not be added flat here. It would be really.
I think, sorry to interrupt, I think that's a really good point, because my concern about using this type of software before, because I over the years I've had lots of companies contact and they're saying, here we are, we can simulate, and I've had examples of Prince William suddenly having a full head of hair.
Yeah.
And I think it's completely, it's not reflective of what's possible.
Yeah.
It raises patients' expectations. So I think it's a good thing that you're not able to simulate exactly what that would look like, because I think it's very challenging and it could be misleading. Yeah. So me as a patient sitting here, suddenly you fill in my crown and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's great. But we know that hair transplants are an illusion of a full head of hair in terms of density.
This is giving you the nuts and bolts of what we can utilize, what's available, given the maths, to implement in a given area. So from a patient's perspective, that there's a huge value to that, because it's such an unknown. And there's a lot of speculation about, it's interpretation, isn't it? It's like you could have something, as we know, being in the industry for so many years, there's a lot of people on that side of the desk telling this side of the desk what they want to hear and not what they need to hear. And what this does is eliminates a lot of that, because this is numbers. You can't kind of argue with it. So it's how those precious available donor hairs are best utilized. And this process enables you to have the variables to give the patient something to go away with and think about.
And the variables are, obviously, is that unless I was seen in person, you're not going to be able to really determine what my density is, the number of grafts you're likely to be able to extract. But I think that's great, because it gives you the surface area, we can estimate the sort of density, and it gives us a bit of an idea that if we were to achieve just shy of 1,000 grafts, where we might put them.
But just on that point, this is why in situ here, and we're at the Harley Street Hair Clinic today, whereby this would be alongside medical, kind of a doctor assessing that patient's donor, whilst then this is visually allowing that patient to see what the doctor is examining. So it's a combination of the two, isn't it?
It is.
It's having that doctor enabling the patient to understand what they're seeing and what surface areas they're talking about, which is, this enables such a picture paints 1,000 words, doesn't it? So it's the guidance with the...
And there are so many different ways of applying it into the process of a clinic. So for example, we have patient advisors carrying out exactly this without knowing the numbers, with the caveat that as a patient, this is preliminary, and this is what we would recommend based on what we know. And if you think this makes sense, please come and we'll do a proper evaluation to see whether you actually have the capacity we expect. Make sure you don't have a skin disease.
Of course, absolutely,
But instead of just pulling a patient in without any pre-alignment on what's going to happen, etc., you can do a bit of that work on beforehand and bring in the right patients.
Yeah, I think that's key, because often in a virtual consultation, for instance, and if you're a patient advisor, I did virtual consultations for 15 years. And I think that the key factor is that it's getting on the same page as that patient. Because often I've done virtual consultations and we've talked about where the hairline might be positioned. I think that's the key thing, it's the hairline position. And then that patient comes in, and then with the doctor, they're asking the question, so where would you like your hairline? And they're pointing to something which is just crazy, which is unachievable.
Yeah.
So I think this is where that is going to really, really help to give that patient the idea that it's very difficult to be able to do that over a video call.
Yeah, and that's actually a great segue into simulation. But before we go there, I also want to show you a couple of more things that still ties into planning. So for example, you have also the option of using rulers.
Okay. And that's in centimeters, yeah?
That's in centimeters to be able to measure
nice.
for your sake, but also for the patient to understand that, hey, it's actually a pretty vast area that is opening up here in your crown.
I've got a big crown, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So what size is that out of interest? But you just put the ruler across again?
Yep, like this. So that will be about 8 centimeters.
8 centimeters. Yeah.
There are things
Big
like
old area.
markers.
Well, this is why they call the crown the black hole, isn't it, really? Because it is a big area.
It is a big area, right?
Particularly if you're a Norwood 6 patient like myself.
And this area is 41 square centimeters. I think my crown, the last job, it was like about 85 square centimeters, right? Because I also have a really big head.
Were you in Norwood 6 then?
Yeah, I probably would today if I have some photos.
That's hard to believe.
Yeah. But I had 9,000 grafts, over 10 years.
Wow.
So not as many surgeries as you guys. I don't know what is your graft count? Do you know? Estimated graft count.
Just shy of 10,000 grafts.
Yeah, I don't even know.
For communication purposes, you can also make markers. So let's say we want to write here that, okay, yes. So David, we implant here, okay?
Okay.
Probably something more medical, but for your, just for...
You could put the stats on there, couldn't they?
You can put the stats, how many grafts goes in there. Maybe we should do something like that. Like this. We choose the color of the icon. That. Remaining. Can't spell, right? Remaining 900. Or was it 980?
980. Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah, perfect.
Just changing gears here a little bit. So how does the software work in terms of, now you've done this with the patient's happy to, is there a way to download this whole kind of consultation that we've just witnessed into kind of a summary that then they can refer to? Because information overload, even for us,
Yeah, and are you able to email that to the patients? They get an idea of the what you've discussed?
Yeah, so there are a couple of different ways. What we're focusing on is keeping it extremely simple. So I will hover with my index finger and press the button P, and it just makes that screenshot, including that plan or my comments, right? Because most of our users, they would like to put this into their own format, or they would like to share it through WhatsApp or an email as a single screenshot. Okay, so anywhere in the software from any angle, I just screenshot like that.
Okay. So if you were putting some hair in the hairline and in the crown, for instance, then you'd have to do a number of screenshots in order to send to the patient so you could see the plan.
However, there is also PDF functionality.
Okay.
So the software builds a PDF,
right?
But you populate the PDF, or the clinic populate the PDF themselves, right? So it's a consultation report.
Yeah.
Where the software snaps a couple of screenshots like that, and you choose which ones.
Which angles you get. Okay. I think what would be really cool as an idea is if you were able to, like we've just seen the head rotate, to be able to send that to the patients.
Yeah, that's also possible actually. Let's see if there's a record button here. This depends a lot on the computer, basically the computer specs, how well this plays out. But I'm able to create this.
Because do you know why I think that would be
video
great?
like that?
Yeah, because I think that let's say for instance, having sat in a number of consultations before, often you get the patient arrives in the consultation and then they want to talk to their partner, for instance.
Of course.
And they've got nothing, they've been to the consultation, they've got nothing to take away with them from that consultation to better say, oh, you know, what do you think? So to better show that to their partner and then talk about it after the event, I think would be really helpful.
Because people come to consultations as well, and so they're emotionally charged. So with that, they're hypersensitive. So not everything goes in. They can't articulate it back in the manner that it's been delivered. So having this to be able to refer to as a kind of a resource is powerful.
Whilst we're talking, I'm going to just think about pausing all of these because there's going to be a massive, great big file to send in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. Okay.
So maybe ask the simulation part of the software. It is first of all not predicting, right?
Okay.
So remember, it's a surgeon or clinician-led software where the simulation is to be seen as conceptual in order to explain to patients what is good treatment advice with regards to hairline design, hairline placement.
Sure.
Also to explain kind of the concept of density, which we hear from a lot of our clients, right? They are one of their challenges is explaining to patients, okay, how dense, how thick is my hair going to look, right?
Very common question.
Very common question, super difficult to answer. So using our product that can help you out to conceptually give an idea.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
So it is less about promising an outcome. The software will not tell you that, hey, if you do this and this plan, this is what you're getting, right? There are so many, us three, we know it, but there are so many other parameters, you know. What is the quality of the donor? The native hair situation. Is the patient on medication? What about aftercare? I mean, how does the human body react? Will the patient smoke a pack of cigarettes? I mean, the software cannot, no software can know these things. That's why our stance is the user is the professional and use it in a way that is ethical and that represents what you want to show the patient, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good starting point in understanding how we relate to simulation.
I think if we're going to, so obviously we've got your pictures up now, which is great. The focus is off me.
Yeah.
So what would you like to do then? If because I think, sorry, just to interrupt, I think we've kind of done the mapping of the donor area, haven't we? Really. I mean, obviously you can go through that again, but I think that. What would you do?
Well, I suppose it all depends again on what the donor supply is. So should we say hypothetically, and we'll cut straight into it, that I've got 1,000 grafts to utilize?
We don't have to talk about graphs at all.
All right, cool.
So we can just, relate
Yeah, well,
to
let's
the
just, okay.
You want to.
So let's you can take the helm and design a hairline on there that, given my age, 50, given the number of hair transplants that I've had, you can show us what.
I would ask you. So, like Spencer, this is you. This is your current hairline. These are your.
So are they options on the right hand side there?
Yeah.
So it provides you like options there.
These provide you with like different hair structures.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So
Can we go through those then and just see if there's one that takes my fancy?
Can we see so what options do you have on the side there?
So the top right there. So the top right,
more of an like Asian hair structure.
Yeah. Well, let's see. It's quite extreme, wasn't it? Because that isn't what I have currently. What I have currently is more.
I would say this is probably quite similar to your structure, ish, right?
Yeah.
So looking at.
If I wanted to go quite aggressive, in terms of the most aggressive hairline design that you've got there in your, which would be a common question, isn't it? Yeah. Patients would more often than not say, what's the lowest hairline and what's the densest hairline I can have?
Let's have a look. Yeah. But on the right-hand side, you choose from different hair structures. Okay. So, and each hair structure, like this one, comes with hair lines, like this. So different pre-made hairline designs.
Okay. So sorry, you can take into account ethnicity. You can take into account hair types. You can take into account a number of factors there when you're designing the hairline.
And in addition, I can move the hairline like this.
Wow, that's good. Yeah.
Along with that, I can click it and I can alter it
Wow.
in detail. So let's say we want to go here. And I can go back into then moving that entire thing again.
Okay. So that with that then that you've just drawn on there, which is essentially just a tweak of my existing hairline. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're not bringing it down too much.
We're bringing it down like a good centimeter. And we're probably
Well, I tell you what, let's bring it down 0.5 centimeter. But on that hairline design, let's just see.
0.5 centimeter more?
No, less.
Less.
Because my hairline's already at a good position. I don't need. I'm 50 years old. I'm like, for me, I'm more mindful of whatever donor supply I have left, which is limited. I've got to be realistic. And it's a pass through there. So based on that design that you've just drawn there, does it give you an approximate of how many grafts that would? No, it's just giving me purely a visual. Right. This is what, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. But what we can do now, since you are content with this, you say, okay, this is the line I want.
Yeah.
I go back into planning and the software gives me that indication.
Okay.
Okay.
So
which
now,
is tweak, yeah. Okay, that's good.
So now we can go actually plan it out. So, okay, we're going to do this. Okay, maybe
It's like a real building process, isn't it? It's like layers to it. So when Pa referred to, it's not a tool, it's a toolbox, which is great, isn't it? Because it's like...
I like the way that you can design it there with the patient.
Quite literally.
And then you go into this part of it
and you bespoke
map out the area. Yeah. And that's, okay. So basically what you've done there is strengthen the hairline, bring forward the temporal corner slightly, not much of a change. And that's being measured out, has it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now, if we want, we can actually make a bespoke plan for this.
So as that's your hairline, let's try and
work out then what that would take, what that would consist of.
I think a nice density for you to get a natural hairline would be probably 50 grafts per centimetre square. You've got quite nice calibre of hair, haven't you?
So that's, now we place about 50.
Yeah.
What about the distribution of...
Well, because it's hairline, it should be mainly singles, shouldn't it, really? So if we're looking at...
1.8?
Yeah.
So we had a single line and then some doubles and triples behind.
So typically in a hairline, you transplant around about 350 singles from the front edge into the hairline. Then you could use the 2s and 3s behind that, can't you? So
to make this happen, that would equal 870 grafts approximately.
Okay, and that's 0.5 centimetre.
Yeah,
you say.
That's approximately 0.5 centimetre.
Okay.
Let's see, we can measure it like this. Let's see, actually even 1 centimetre, depending a little bit where the actual line is. We can also pull out some lasers like this and let the lasers tell us. Yeah, so it's 1 centimetre.
So it's 1 centimetre. So 1 centimetre at 50 grafts per centimetre square is 871 grafts.
Yeah.
I would have thought that maybe require a little bit more for that area. But I guess if you're keeping it mainly singles, then
well,
it just goes to show, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that's good graft planning, though, isn't it? Because obviously it means that you're not quoting the patient potentially, I don't know, 1,500 grafts for that area, which some clinics might use.
Yeah. Which would be over usage of the donor supply.
However, in this specific case, since we didn't really expose your hairline fully, there's a margin of error here.
Yeah.
And when we talk about such small, lowering the hairline, 0.5 centimetre would make a big difference at 50 density of 50, right?
Yeah. Well, let's lower it more then. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to do this, but I'm just saying I'd like to see what the software would offer if we were to say...
So go back to your original plan then of lowering it down that extra, another 0.5 centimetre?
Just raise your eyebrows up. Oh, you've got scope to bring the hairline down if you wanted to.
If we go back, we started simulation.
I'm not suggesting you do, by the way. I'm not trying to say...
Well, I'll go in after you.
I'm not trying to say you're not a hair transplant here.
We can do this. So we just...
Buddy, I wasn't in the market for a hair transplant, but now I'm seeing this.
Yeah. And now maybe there is a chance.
You brought your scalpel, pal.
So
Okay, so that allows you to see on one side of the scalp exactly
that's
what.
good.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Oh wow, look at that. Yeah.
And note that we keep the bespoke shape that we made. Okay, because we can still make it even more bespoke, I guess.
Okay.
And it just keeps that when I move the line.
So for different ethnicities that might have more, more of a flatter, maybe a slightly rounder
More of a
hairline,
rounded.
or then some, having more of a receded hairline, you can really.
And it's age dependent as well, which we've got to consider here, because it's like, is that going to be? I'm 50 now, but in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
This, if you've got a 28, 30-year-old who's wanting it, possibly a bit too low. The guidance is key here. For we've got to look at this being age appropriate.
And this is a very common thing that we get, like some clinics who have patients coming in wanting let's say, this hairline, straight hairline, like that, and they want it really low.
Yeah.
And they want it even lower and even
to see
lower
how
and
it
even
looks.
lower. I mean, you could go to extremes and just show, do you really want this?
Sorry.
And do you really want this?
Oh, buddy.
And if you do, I mean, if you were to
With
do
hair
this,
cloning, can you imagine?
if you were to do this, you would compromise your
I like that
density
look.
so
I like
much.
that simulation as you thin
That's
look.
you. I can see.
That's me. That's me in 20 years.
yeah.
But that is somebody who's gone off and had a really low hairline done,
Yeah.
and then
Without
continued to lose
understanding-
low more hair. That's a great image. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
But you look like a bit like Captain Kirk with the hair before there. What's his name?
I know what you're saying. I know who you mean. That part just is a concept to look into, not as a promotion aspect, but it's kind of the reverse psychology of like.
Do you really want to look like this?
You don't want to look.
But
like
I'm not joking. Our clients use it this way.
Oh right, okay,
Reverse
that's good
no,
then. Okay, yeah.
I'm not-
But it's powerful.
It's super powerful. That if you really
If you
want
did it this low in
Yeah.
20 years' time,
we're not going to treat you.
no.
You're free to do whatever you want. If you go somewhere and have this done, this could be.
Put the density back on again for a moment in terms of like the because like so
Jesus,
to me
Elvis.
well, but it looks like you've got a toupee on. It looks really unnatural,
Yeah.
and actually it looks to me it looks just odd. So if you raise the hairline up again, that looks like you again. now.
It does.
But when you change, it just goes to show that and I've had this before over the years where, and I'm sure you've experienced this, buyer's remorse, where patients have gone and got a really low hairline and they see it within that first week, even the first few days. And I've had the patients contact me, I've been off to such and such a clinic, I've brought my hairline down too low because there wasn't a proper consultation with the patient at the time and then they've contacted and I say, well, maybe when the hair grows out, you'll get used to it, you'll adapt it. But it's a big change to suddenly have a slightly high elevated receded hairline to bring it down like that. And that's really interesting to see it like that because that's quite alarming, isn't it?
Well, you're giving them an insight. You're giving them an insight into let's plan ahead because you can always add more.
Yeah.
You can't take it away.
I think that's been really helpful to see that because I think visually for patients to see
I think it's very
how
powerful.
strange they would look with a really low, strong hairline, and avoiding making that mistake now, rather than going across and planning wherever they go to.
And I must say, I love how you kind of relate to this because this is exactly what we are trying to achieve. It is not about reaching exact realism in how hair is going to look. This is conceptual, educational platform for us to
Used
decide
correctly, it's
together.
incredibly informative. But also that clip that we've just seen of the position of the hairline and how it would age over time is an incredibly powerful tool to enable patient eligibility, because what you're doing is your clinics are able to kind of give that patient the insight to make that patient, well, this isn't for me, this so it's actually a really good tool of eliminating patients who think they're eligible. They want to hear what you're telling us, but I think it's from a subconscious point of view, it's actually helping patients make much more informed decisions and allowing them to kind of put the ownership back onto them in terms of the responsibility. Is this right for me? Because even when that hairline is positioned correctly and then you can see that pattern of loss unfold. Like already that's it. Well, I'm going to have to commit to further surgeries here because you've just highlighted there that hair loss is progressive. And if you're going to put your hairline here now, you've got to be able to commit to this. So there's there's many layers to what this has just enabled the patient to see.
I think having sat in consultations for so long that when a patient comes in and they're talking about restoring their hairline, they've receded, the vast majority of patients don't have any idea about where a hairline should sit, and they need to be guided by the specialist in terms of the surgeon. So they come in and they're like, you hold a mirror to a patient and like, where would you like to see your hairline? And
well, they want it as low as possible.
They kind of here and they kind of round it off in the corners, they bring it here. So I think visually for them to be able to see that would help them to be able to think to themselves, well, actually, hang on, like, that's completely wrong for me to have that hairline. Just on another point, actually, not trying to get back to me again, Par, but I actually had my hairline raised, so I'd love to see myself with a more receded hairline.
Let's go back to you.
If that's all right. I'm just going to check the...
I'm just going to pop to the limb quickly.
All right. Please do.
Okay, so we've just gone back into my images in terms of, because I was just explaining that I'd actually had my hairline raised, and because I had a hair transplant at the age of 23, quite a strong hairline was imposed at that time. And I loved it at the time, obviously, and I actually remember saying to the surgeon, is that my new hairline? Why have you put it so high? Thankfully he did, because obviously went on to lose a lot more hair. However, this would be really interesting to see my hairline maybe raised up slightly and how that would work with my my head shape.
Yeah, to raise it even further, you mean?
Yeah, I think so. I think just creating a slightly more receded hairline into the corners, maybe. I'd be interested to see how that would look.
So currently, I believe we're kind of mimicking your existing hairline right now. So if we were to bring that up, a bit further up, then add a little bit of skin layer. So now we can still see, your native hair underneath, right? Because it's quite uncommon use to actually bring it up, but it's a very good thing.
Yeah, well, from patients that brought that question about was from patients that have been misinformed and had inaccurate kind of surgery or inappropriate surgery.
Should we bring up the temple?
I'd love to see I'd like to see the temple corners moved up a little bit more. So maybe not so much in the center point. I think just more of a receded hairline, because what I'm seeing, and I'm sure you are as well, is a lot of repair patients who are having very strong hairlines created. And then they're having this buyer's remorse where they feel that actually they wanted to build in a slightly more receded hairline. So it's planning with those patients, if you were to punch out the grafts in the corners, what a slightly more receded hairline would look like. And I'm having a conversation with a few patients at the moment who are considering doing this.
Let's move to this side. Pull this one.
Yeah, really, really go. Give me more of a sort of like a Jude Law kind of like look.
I'm going to pull your...
You wish, buddy.
Well, not... Yeah, well... But in terms of the hairline shape.
Yeah.
Because probably if you're looking at a Norwood 6 patient today, then you kind of like... Should be kind of creating a more receded hairline.
Let's do
there we go. Yeah, that's getting more like it.
So you want to keep
the position in the center,
position in the front, right?
Just recede in the temples. So
okay. So let's have a look at you. Something like that.
Yeah. See, I like that look.
Yeah. Me too. I think that looks great.
I think that's a classic look for a guy in his 50s.
100% with a natural aging hairline.
I think it looks great.
A maturing hairline.
If you showed me that now and said, you could, that's the sort of hairline, I would probably choose that hairline today. But when I was in my 20s, I wouldn't have, that hairline wouldn't have been like, you're kidding, I don't want that hairline. But now, I like it.
Super age appropriate, isn't it? Because it's much more relative to not many.
Yeah, but you've had more of a recession built into your corners, which I like personally, because I think it's age appropriate.
And I still have my native actually. So we rebuilt my native hairline from start,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yours is good, though, buddy. It's really good.
How many
That's how I was born. So.
How many grafts have you had?
9,000.
Wow. Okay.
It is very user friendly. We have asked today a lot of questions that the average patient wouldn't think to ask, and I think that this software in the right hands. So I suppose a question to you is, you want this software in people's clinics, but is there a line between which clinics you're able to provide this software to? Because like we know the hair transplant industry, and we are privy to, we're a clearinghouse for complaints. We are veteran patients in the field of, numerous hair transplants, repair patients. So is there a cutoff point where you're not willing to provide this software to certain clinics because it might be misused?
That is a very good question, and the answer is yes. In addition to that, we are actually fortunate enough that our software is mainly highly valued among premium clinics who are already into to alignment, like they position alignment with patients very, very highly, right? And they see this as a great opportunity to enhance that process and that discussion, right? So we are rarely in the situation where we feel that, hey, this software is going to be misused. But if we are, we have the ethical position to say no.
Because that's my concern is that in the wrong hands, and if you've got somebody who's a commission-based sales advisor, for instance, and they're doing a consultation with somebody and they're just promising them whatever hairline that they want, that's misleading the patient. They hop on a plane, they turn up at the clinic, and then they see the doctor, and a very different outcome to what was proposed by the patient advisor.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable at some point. Things like that will happen, but I think in a sense it is also better. It is not better for the individual patient, but for the industry to add more clarity. And along the way, there's going to be clinics who promise something or who communicate something that they cannot deliver. And that's going to be self-cleansing in a way, right? Because those clinics are not going to remain in the market. Okay?
Agreed.
So instead of, because we hear these objections sometimes, it's not a common, but it's an objection that happens that, hey, what if I show the patient something and that will not happen?
Yeah, because when they meet, when you see them in person, suddenly the density is not as good as you were expecting it's going to be. And this happens because patients turn up, with a much more challenging donor area, recipient area.
And that happens, but using this kind of technology should help to explain that. That there are no guarantees ever, but before we see you, we cannot, we have to see you to actually make a proper assessment and to give you the best case scenario. But what some clinics have the approach of, hey, the less we tell the patients, the less liability.
Yeah.
Those are not our customers.
No.
We don't strive to work with those clinics, and those clinics are not looking for our solutions. And personally, I kind of don't like that approach.
And it's reassuring to hear that you want to align with very ethical clinics who only want to educate their patients and make them informed, because the more informed patient is essentially going to have a much better outcome, both for the patient and the clinic, because essentially you don't want to be misinforming patients, because that's going to come back and bite you. But what this highlights is it's with those practitioners when patients are turning up and they've already had multiple consultations and they've been via different forms. I've been quoted 2,000 grafts by somebody, 3,000 grafts by somebody, 4,000 grafts by somebody. This software is allowing the clinic to say, well, okay, this is what 2,000 grafts is going to approximately provide you. This is what 3,000 is going to, and 4,000. So it really is removing a huge amount of uncertainty or misunderstanding, because it's allowing a stake in the ground to provide that direct communication, which is accurate to the point of, to the graft, it can't be done. But I think it's an incredibly, used correctly by the right people, it's a powerful tool to make patients even more informed and protected.
Fully agree, 100%. And you guys have been in this space for a long time, and maybe you agree to this, but in the past, patients were less informed, but now we see a shift where patients are more informed, but also sometimes misinformed because they are self-informed. And with the rise of generative AI, for example, patients self-educate, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. So probably in the future, the role of the clinic will also be to kind of recalibrate the expectations of the patients and tell them that this is, you have a great general knowledge, which you believe is specific to you. But unfortunately, it is not. I mean, it is super individual. We have to meet you and kind of rearrange your expectations.
Absolutely. I think that expectation levels have risen over the years when it comes to hair transplant massively.
Yeah.
Because if you go back to the day, people were talking about 2,000 grafts being a mega session.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about 8,000 grafts by some clinics. So expectation levels have risen hugely over the years. And I think that's the key is making sure that patients' expectation levels are correct. What I would love to see actually, Par, is that we've looked at Spencer and mine images. Let's see, a patient who's got no hair, and if we were trying to, put 2,500 grafts, that would be great. I'd be interested to see, because I think being able to explain to them where the hairline might go, what the crown would look like in relation to that, I think that would be really good for the patient to understand what is possible.
Cool.
Would that be a possibility to see how that would...
As in, just an example of...
So what kind of example, if this goes like off the... just to understand?
No, just to see, like, let's say a Norwood 6 came in.
Like, let's see this gentleman.
Well, this chap here, he's a good example.
Let's say this gentleman.
I suppose, mate, just to summarise, just to give us a base, or the third party that's watching this, what the basic of somebody that's highly progressed, but has got 2,500 grafts, what is that going to look like?
Yeah.
Is that...
Because that's the key. People always say, like, if I did 2,500 grafts to the front and then I came back a year later, if it's possible to do the crown, or actually maybe I haven't got enough donor hair for the crown. So if I put that hair in the front, what would that realistically look like? And lots of clinics won't actually show you.
They won't give them
what the
the
crown looks
long-term...
like,
Okay, so let's give it a shot.
This is really good from like a long-term expectation kind of insight that I think patients haven't got when they come in for their initial consultation. It's providing them the insight long term, because you can kind of see where that hairline needs to be placed. If you're going to commit to this, you can't go any lower than this, which people don't want to hear.
I love Par's answer on why what clinics would prefer this product. And it really answers that question, because a good clinic plans for you 5, 6 years, 10 years down the line. The bad clinic never does.
Yeah.
And this is where the software can help bridge that gap to demonstrate.
Because this guy here, you can almost see where his hairline wants to go. For me.
Okay, let's...
It's nice to hear though, Part. I liked your answer, which was very organic and natural, with the fact you're aligning with...
I would actually...
This is to be aligned with elite clinics, not average. You're already setting yourself apart. You've been given the seal of approval to use force.
He's probably finishing around about here.
Round about here?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
what about hairline? So how would you guys want to place it?
So if I was looking at that guy that you've just, I would actually create him, if you can. This is to get people's expectations correct, because I think it's so important. A really receded hairline, as receded as you could make that for that kind of design. There we go. Yeah, perfect.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Because you've already saved him 800 grafts there, or whatever.
And then
we could recede even further if you...
let's see how it looks, because
the before and after, so...
Because his lateral humps are quite...
is this receded enough?
Yeah, I think that is actually. That works quite well with him, So
we go back into planning.
Yeah.
Software lays out that line.
Yeah.
Would you kind of agree to that?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable hairline for somebody who's between a 5 and a 6, isn't he, I guess?
Okay, I'm not gonna do a super detailed plan, but a front plan like this. Okay,
I think there's something definitely in that interacted pen. Like, I think that's a great idea.
how far do we want to go in
So
the
for me, you kind of have to go here, but you don't want to do it straight. You want to kind of go in like this. So it's almost like a
V
shallow
or
U,
a
shallow U.
U shape.
Yeah.
So like a little bit of U like this.
Yeah, exactly that. And then, so that's...
So it would be a standalone, like his crown has thinned, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So exactly.
Now
so,
I just made one big old segment. We could of course split this into two. That would probably make more sense, right? If we're anyway going to do this.
check what... Conscious about battery levels and so on as well. Okay, yeah, it's all recording okay.
Good. Let me do this. Let's see. Nadim has some weird resolution on his computer, which kind of puzzles me a little bit, but let's see. Okay, so let's draw a front segment first.
Yeah.
I mean, in surgery, obviously, probably someone would like to try to keep the native hair that he has, right?
Yeah, because you must have done your procedure over a couple of sessions. How many have you had?
3 sessions.
3 sessions, yeah. So did you restore the front first of all and leave the crown? So a similar thing to what you're proposing
Working
here,
from
really.
front to back based on available.
So this front, for example, if we were to place, let's say, I don't know, 35.
35, yeah, for that kind of area.
What the heck? There's something about the resolution on Nadim's computer. Let's see if we can fix it. No, we can't. Okay, there we go. So that's 1,900 grafts in this front.
Okay.
So if we were to have, how many were we?
2,500?
2,500.
Yeah, so if we...
So we create a new segment for the
What
mid
density is
scalp.
that at? 35?
35, yeah, which is a decent density for... I reckon that's going to probably use too many grafts, but...
Let's see, we can pull it back a little bit.
That'll be more like 3,500 now.
So density 25. So now we place 3,000.
Okay, so that's a nice idea of yeah. Well, let's
Should we work with that?
yeah.
So what the software now does, when we go back into simulation, remember, it is not predictive, so the simulation does actually not change.
Okay.
So we are in control, so we have to decide
The density.
what this is going to look like.
Okay.
Kind of. Okay, so
That's quite important. Who's at the helm of that?
Yep, that is super important.
Why it's got to be in the right hands.
Yep.
Yeah. But
So
it's nice to hear that it's like, there's a...
I like the way that you can obviously reduce the density into the area because that's
we can also alter the density, so we put more density in the front and reduce a little
Which you
bit in the
would do.
mid scalp.
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
And we can also work on where
because
we
I
want
think
that to.
yeah, because I think probably if you're for that kind of numbers, I think you probably want about 30, 35 into the hairline, and then maybe you'd then reduce to 25, 20 as you taper out towards the crown.
Probably. And I mean, here I would say the software is somewhat limited to make this super detailed.
Yeah, of course.
Because gradually decreasing the density throughout the segment, these things are currently not supported.
As the software kind of establishes itself, though, surely you'll be able to input that kind of average. This is what this density would look like, given a stat that you can put in that would then simulate an approximate.
There is going to be a prediction module. This is going to be cut out.
I think that would be powerful. Yeah, I think that will be powerful because let's face it, as a patient comes in here, all they want to know is what they're going to look like.
Yeah.
What am I going to look like? They're not bothered about the semantics of it all and the detail and the hairs per square centimeter and the donor density. Yeah. What am I going to look like? Because I just want my hair back.
Yeah.
And that's a component that I think the sooner you can provide that to the patient, given the fact that they've gone through all the relevant components accurately, that for them is going to be then connecting the patient and the surgeon very quickly.
And I've sat in so many consultations over the years where the patient or even the after question, the patient's gone away and they've said to me, are you able to give me some sort of visual representation of what this might look like?
Yeah.
But I'd be interested actually, just while we've got this patient up. So your hair colouring, are you able to suddenly change the colour of the hair, that we can see how it would look with someone with a reduced contrast? Because that guy's got sort of fair skin and dark hair.
I mean, could add a little bit of grayness, like I did to you, some salt and pepper.
Yeah.
I did that for you.
Okay.
That's good, isn't it?
Changing hair can be done this way.
Okay.
Just changing hair like this. The software is actually built to mimic, so it mimics the patient's native hair. Okay. So now we have some grayish black, and it mimics using a color picker. So I click that one.
So again, very much like paint.
Yeah. And I just kind of pick his eyebrow.
Yeah.
Okay, now that gets a little bit gray or brownish. Yeah. Like that, for example.
Here's a concept for you, Pa.
Tell me.
Like a patient does like a patch test, so they cut some hair and they put it under a scanner or enter, to then that goes into the back end. So you're actually dealing with the patient's DNA within the app. Do you know what I mean, though? That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Well, do you know that Dr. Pasanga always, when you go for consultation with him, he will shaves a little bit of your hair, doesn't he? So he can assess.
He did on my first at least. I remember my first and my second I had it like patched.
I'm just thinking of developing this thing further. Can you imagine this? It's like it has the contract. You know, you're like you could go forever with it.
But how you would set kind of what this would look like, and then by hovering, you would explain it to the patient that, hey, we do 35 grafts here.
Yeah.
And in the mid-scalp, we do 25.
Okay. And, but yeah, exactly. And that's a representation, you believe, of around about 35 grafts.
That's what I believe as the operator.
Okay.
Not what the software tells me.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Good, valuable point, because you could have 5 different operators and it could be slightly different, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because it all depends on what I want to show.
This is why it's so important to be trusted who's providing this.
And what I'd love to see again, just because this is a question that patients have. So we're talking about a patient here now who's extensive loss, 5 to 6 pattern, and they're looking at rebuilding 2,500, 3,000 grafts, which is typically what majority of clinics may be able to do in one procedure over one day, perhaps. But there's always this balancing that the patient would have is like, do I do restore the front and the mid-scalp first of all, or do I do a whole general coverage? Yeah. So are you able to give me an idea of what that might look like if we did cover the entire crown and reduce the density?
With the 25...
With the similar number of grafts. Yeah,
grafts.
2,500, 3,000 grafts, because...
So you're stretching that graft
so let's
count.
add a crown and just make him more or less bald in the crown.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. Because I think this is what patients cannot get their heads around.
No.
And I think this is where this is going to be key for patients to be able to understand. Because so often I get this like, should I do, I'm bothered by the crown. I'd love to fix the crown.
All in one go.
Yeah. But realistically, do I do it all in one go and have a reduced density, or do I just concentrate on the front and the mid-scalp and then see how I live with that? That was the whole point for patients to be able to see what it looks like with a bald crown or a thinning crown versus then covering the entire area. I think that's a key point.
It is, but also the reality of that is they're going to have 2 surgeries anyway. Yeah. So how do you go about this?
Well, absolutely. But I think that that patients always think to themselves,
Oh, completely. They're biased. They want coverage.
Let's see what coverage looks like versus density. Yeah. Or
because we're sacrificing surface area over density.
Yeah. And I think that if patients were able to see what this looks like, it may help them make that decision. Because 100%. I personally feel that the staged approach that we just put up on the screen, doing the front and the mid-scalp first of all,
it's a really good
coming back and doing the crown.
It's a really good point, and that insight only comes from the amount of consultations that you've done.
Well, of course, yeah.
I mean, this would be my take, right? But if we were to use your now we calculate. We're using 3,005. Oh, sorry, wrong one. We're using. Let's see. We're using 3,400 grafts to do full coverage.
Okay. Yeah.
So
and you can see from that the crown and mid scalp is pretty thin.
So we're using 1,000 grafts in the crown.
Yeah.
We're using
it breaks it
900 in the mid scalp, and we're using 1,500 in the front.
Okay.
So
And
this is what you would be looking at.
And it tells you the density in those areas as well?
Yeah.
So what's the density in that frontal sort of third?
So that's 27,
Okay, yeah. So,
20,
yeah,
14.
okay.
And again, that simulation of the two comparisons is again, in my opinion, informing assessing the eligibility of that patient for their understanding of what they're about to embark on and how to best do it. So it's informative.
I guess from a clinic's point of view, this is that these consultations, you allocate half an hour to an hour. Before you know it, you're sat here like I've just done, all excited, talking about, well, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? So how would clinics be able to not turn a half-hour consultation into a 2-hour consultation where you've designed multiple hairlines? So how do clinics get around that aspect?
What we see, like some of our top users, they use a piece of the toolbox, which is our product, right?
Okay.
So for example, the hairline placement and hairline design, and they stop. That's part of the standard consultation procedure.
Sure.
If a patient wants more, some clinics offer that on a separate occasion, for example, if the patient haven't made up their mind or they want more information. So they can book a specific 3D consultation session where they set up 1 hour, for example, and sometimes they might even charge for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think that's quite important because otherwise, knowing what patients are like and knowing how many questions they have over the years is that you could be drawn into multiple consultations where the patient is just suddenly saying, well, actually, hang on a minute, let's just, like I just said, let's recede my hairline a bit, let's bring it down. And before you know it, you've spent a lot of time. I think it's great for the patient, but I think they are the challenges for the clinic's point of view.
There are clinics also charging for it and then deducting the cost for it if you go ahead with procedure, right?
Right, yeah.
To cover your time expenditure as a clinic, but for the sake of ethical treatment, they offer it, right? And spend time with that patient. But of course, you want to cover that cost too of doing long consultation. Yeah.
I've got a question. So for doctors and clinics that will be watching this, it's like on average then, how many hours training would the appropriate person that's conducting these consultations need from Force? And can that be, I presume that's in-house, that's not done remotely because it's quite a complicated process. But once you know how, I presume it's like anything, becomes easier the more that you use it. But on average, what would you say a clinic's got to dedicate to training to get up and running with this?
I would say we do all training online and with customers in 25 plus countries. It works well. We have a great protocol for it. Clinics spend on average 1 to 1.5 hours in an initial session with us, which is, good enough to go do consultation with patients. Do clinics generally master the software in that time period? No.
But they're learning constantly.
But they're learning. Yeah. And the really good way of deploying this software, as we have found, is to focus on one thing. So we actually narrow down with the clinic, okay, where, based on your process, what is the most kind of urgent, common, relevant way of using the software? And we train the clinics until they master that. And what happens is generally they master that and then they kind of, they get so used so that they self-educate on the remaining functionality. And sometimes, we also do a lot of support, training. If a clinic wants a second training, that's all included.
So it's included in-house?
It's included. We are software as a service.
Okay.
Buy this and you have everything included, including, multiple sessions, training sessions, support.
I've got a question. So,
I was just going to say, it's interesting because each clinic does consultations differently.
Yeah.
So that is the beauty of this. It's very bespoke to whatever component, or some clinics will focus on a specific area over others. Some will do the whole thing, some consultations, like you said, are 15 minutes, some are 2 hours, it depends on what.
We have clinics using our software for 2 minutes per session and finding great value. We have clinics using it for their planning, specifically for planning. They never even touch consultation. Or simulation, sorry. So they plan specifically. That's what they use it for. Some use planning for the consultation.
My question would be is that a doctor's time is incredibly precious in these consultations. So working with the patient advisor, perhaps having been one myself for 15 years, is that the patient submitting these photographs prior to their consultation. So knowing what might be possible, you can go ahead in advance and mock up a kind of an idea, so that the doctor can show the patient the proposed hairline, the proposed coverage with what they may be able to achieve, because they may not do 5,000 grafts, they may not be able to give the full coverage into the crown. So mocking up an idea of the hairline so the doctor can just show the patient. So the doctor doesn't have to do anything themselves. It's all done prior with perhaps like a patient advisor,
isn't it?
the person who's done the training and so on. Because I would imagine some doctors are going to look at this and think, this is too much for me to be able to do. Ask all these relevant questions in a consultation, patient, medical history, use of medication, all these types of things, and then spend time doing this. I think some doctors would like maybe this pre-prepared, that they can give the patients an idea.
I would say the majority of our users are advisors.
Yeah.
Working together with the doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So advisors preparing, creating a mock-up, creating initial alignment. Doctor comes in, might do a bit of adjusting together with the patient based on patient's confirmed conditions, so to say, or just confirming the preliminary plan that was made by the advisor.
So your target audience here really is not the doctor. It's actually the patient advisors within the clinics, because they're the ones that are essentially going to be doing the heavy lifting with the software, aren't they?
Both actually depends so much on the clinic, and we find ourselves, the commercial team of Force, becoming like business consultants as much as educating clinics in product, because we know so many clinics and with different flows. Clinics are super curious. Okay, how can I use this to make my flows more efficient? How can I save time? But above all, increase my patient satisfaction, my conversion from consultation, spending time on the right patients. So we do 50% at least consultation on implementation and business, and then 50% training in how to use the software.
Yeah.
I think the other point is that, so doctors, so if we're talking about an in-person consultation, so some doctors will like to physically draw with a China marker on the patient's scalp. So let's just say the doctor draws the hairline, draws the coverage, similar to what we've just mapped out there. The patient looks at it, looks at a line, can't comprehend what that might look like in reality in terms of hair. This enables them to be able to give some idea in a 3D effect of what it might look like. So my view is, working with clinics, that the doctor would then, the doctor I worked with used to like to do exactly that, draw the hairline, draw the coverage. So you would then take the images of the patient as a patient advisor, and then you could recreate that to send to the patient afterwards, so they get a visual idea.
That's exactly.
So it doesn't have to be done at the time if you don't have the time during the consultation, because time's precious. You want to see multiple patients on your consultation day. You've got to go back into surgery. That can be done as an after.
Exactly, as an after, sending documentation after the consultation.
I think that's great. Yeah.
We have clinics also drawing lines, drawing receiver segments, taking photos, and then mapping out the plan, right? Kind of mimicking what they drew by hand, because the software will tell you the size of the segment, right? And just by entering, okay, I want to put 45 grafts here, or 45 grafts per square centimeter, the software will tell you the graft count, the hair count, everything. So it's a planning in C2 planning.
And that's incredible, actually, because if you're taking a photograph, the software can determine the size of the area just from the photograph.
Yeah.
That's pretty
with
impressive.
your calibration.
Yeah.
Because I would measure the certain distances on your face, put it into the software, and it calibrates the model.
Okay.
Here's a question. Obviously, you're working with 25 different clinics all around the world.
25 countries.
Beg your pardon. You're working with 25, you're working all over the world
Hundreds of
with
clinics,
25 different countries. And in that time, there's been, I'm assuming, quite a lot of feedback, which obviously is constantly evolving. So the more clinics that come on board using this, the more feedback you're going to obtain. So the better the app is going to become. So it's kind of like the hard yards have been done, because I can see, as you've already mentioned, we had that, we've changed this, we've done that. So, it's constantly evolving, constantly getting better. And even the feedback we've given you today, just through organic conversations, you may be like, oh, I'm going to get back and discuss that with the guys and see if we can implement that. So
Exactly,
it's all very
100%.
positive because we're all working towards essentially making the patient's journey safer and safer, better outcomes for both patient and clinic. Because I think this is it provides an insight, and you're using all these different clinics, you're having all these different consultations, and everybody's going to benefit from that.
And I mean, 100%, that's how I see it, that we are a company, we are a modern software company, meaning we focus on a niche. We built a product that is never static. It will always keep emerging. And what validates our role in this is that we build it for our users. So that's why we stay extremely close to our users. So like compared to kind of an old school software company who would sell a license, this is what you get. And 3 years later, it dies kind of, right? And you know, it slows down on your computer. There's a big chunk of hardware somewhere that you have to fit to it and yada, yada. So we try not to do that, right? We stay dynamic. Everything is included. It keeps emerging, keep developing, and we listen to all the feedback that we get.
And there's no hardware that you need to buy in order to be able to use this software.
You need a Windows computer or a Mac computer.
Okay, yeah.
That's it.
And I think that's, you know, again, because often with other companies, there's hardware, expensive hardware that you have to buy to be able to use their software.
Yeah.
One thing I just thought of actually, that in terms of an in-person consultation, so we were talking about drawing the area. So you could can you go into the software with the measurements? So if I drew an area, or the doctor drew an area on a patient, you can measure that area and you can put that in, and that will then give them a visual demonstration of what, say, like 30 to 40 grafts per centimetre.
That's a realistic use case that clinics use.
I think that's a great way of clinics to be able to show patients what it may look like, to give them an idea. Because I don't know about you, but so many patients I've had over the years, they're on the fence because they don't know what it's going to look like. They have no idea. And I know we don't want to give patients the unrealistic expectations, but just to be able to give them a guide, I think would be helpful for clinics and obviously for patients as well.
Yeah.